Good morning, good afternoon. This video is going to be about one awareness, becoming aware beyond the human being. And this is going to have a relation to do with my profile picture. My profile picture is of an alien and a human being merged together as one. And in the picture it says all is one and one is all. And a lot of people do not understand the powerful meaning behind one is all is one. The mind is all that is. The mind is everything. What that means is many people have already had contact with aliens, with foreign entities, with life forms. Many people have already experienced themselves beyond the body. Many people have already realized that we are the only one in the universe. And when I say only one, I do not mean that there may not exist an external life form different from us. But to say all is one means that the very same awareness behind any focal point is that one. So I'm going to share a quote that I wrote a few days ago, and it's in relation to becoming aware beyond the human being. The mind becomes man, which is God unconscious of itself in the body. The man becomes God when the mind becomes conscious of itself beyond its body. Man is limited, God is not, yet both are created through the same mind. And that's something that we don't realize, is in just being human, we not only limit ourselves, but we instantaneously separated ourselves from the ultimate power. What we most seek. And there's so many people that think that their answer is in an external life form, is in an alien, is in making contact with something outside of themselves, but everything is your mirror. So you would only see it as you see yourself. If us as a human being appeared outside of ourselves, we would not recognize ourselves. Because we are the alien we seek, we only recognize ourselves as this because this is all we've ever known. So it's easy to look around and see others looking the same as us and say this is what we are. But if we ever appeared outside of a human being, we would not recognize ourselves. If we were to put ourselves or appear inside of the green concept of an alien, a Martian, then what would then become alien is the human being, because you are now appearing outside of it. Wherever the focal point of vision is at is where the assumed self is created from. And when I say assumed self, this is the ego or identity, which is established through awareness. And that's what everything is one awareness. Every and any focal point, it does not matter the form. This form, that form, they're the same thing. They're both awareness. Opening a pair of eyes to become aware, to experience an internal body and an external world, and with that awareness births consciousness, because you use the awareness to establish a concept of self. Since your focal point is what is allowing you to travel around, it becomes assumed that this is the self, and you use the awareness to establish consciousness, which is your identity. And identity alone, besides the surface level, is what separates us. You have to lose your human mind. You have to lose your human mind to lose your limited self. And this is just it. You'll find you're not losing anything. You're only shedding layers to what you are not, which will reveal what you are underneath the surface. And it's painful to let go, because since what we are not, the body, this is all we've ever known since we've birthed, this is all we've ever known. When we feel like we're losing concept of self, when we feel like we're losing ourselves, we feel like we are losing touch with our realities, with life, because this is all we've ever known. So it feels as if we are in severe danger in this moment. But this is normal. You have to lose your human mind. You have to shed the layers and concepts of what you are not, which is painful. It is associated with death, because death is considered to be the end of what you are. But it is possible to experience death before a physical death, to reveal to yourself what you truly are beyond self. And you must realize what ego most seeks, it most fears. It goes hand in hand. And this was the ultimate message for me with psychedelics and DMT, is what I most seek, I most fear. And if I'm going to attain my answer, my sovereignty, I must face my fear, which again was just myself. And this is where you will see this fear did not belong to you. It belonged to what you thought you were. The limited self. The limited self fears reincarnation. The limited self wishes to stay in one body. What you are need not hold on to anything at all. The one who suffers is the one who is stuck in a human mind. The human seeks. The human is seeking something beyond themselves. The human has separated themselves from everything. The human is bound to a life and death. The human is bound to a point A and point B. The human is a very limited concept. And that's all the self is a concept of the mind. And this is how quick, how rapidly someone who honestly wants change in their lives can begin to experience this. If we appeared outside of ourselves, we would not recognize what we were looking at as a self, because we would be appearing outside of it. Wherever the focal point of vision is traveling is where you are. And that's just the trick. You are a dual being, so you are not just what's being seen, you are the seer. This is why you cannot see what is being, or see the seer. We're what's forever looking but can never be seen. The form will forever change, but you don't. You are the one awareness. Every identity that has ever been established is this one awareness, which is you, and you have not gone anywhere. When you listen to any speaker, Alan Watts I will use for example because he seems to be the most popular in today's culture. When you listen to Alan Watts, you listen to him not knowing what his next sentence will be. You listen to him as someone outside of you, someone other than you, someone you would not call self. But what we don't realize is that incarnation was us, was the same awareness which became consciousness to establish an identity. In the same way we have done in this very incarnation now. It feels like the first time. I don't think I've ever done this before. It feels brand new. The mystery keeps on going. Constantly unfolding. And that's why we're not in a circle or a loop. We are a spiral, continuously, infinitely unfolding on itself, becoming self-aware, shedding layers and layers and layers. And eventually you realize you only look for what is looking. The physical and non-physical are one and the same thing. So what the ego most seeks, it most fears. And the ego most fears itself outside of itself. For once ego appears outside of itself, guess what it is? It's nothing, no thing, selfless, which is the ultimate. To become selfless means you're not bound to anything. You're not bound to anyone, anything. And this is why I am that I am is the most powerful expression of oneness. And that's why Ramana Maharshi says, do not say I am so I am, or I am so and so, because then you are creating a limited ego, identity. And there's a difference. You travel through your ego, which is your identity. You travel through this identity. The identity is what's telling your story, is what you are experiencing this through. But the identity is also what has established fear for this person, is what has also established limited boundaries, has established concepts that don't actually exist, because we feel bound to this illusory character. And that is the trick. Only the character, identity, is birthing and dying. When people die, you write their names. It's an identity which is dying. An identity is but a concept. Once you realize who and what you are, you only need one lifetime to experience your wholeness. Many people think that this is a dirty trick. an illusion, become frustrated with life, don't understand death, and we do not realize if we were never separate from these people which we love, we would never be able to love them. We would never have the gift of knowing them. Instead of mourning, we could celebrate. And I'm not telling people how to react to death. This is just a suggestion, just to try and change the perception. But instead of mourning the loss, realize you have lost nothing, because you only need but one lifetime to capture what you are. You don't need to hold on to the person, the physical, the moment, because you are the very feeling, the very bond between you and that person, and you are not separate beyond the physical. But you must be separate in the physical to experience each other, to have the gift of knowing each other. And not only other, but self. If there were no other, there would be no self. It is a gift to be separate, to appear separate. Everything is beautiful and perfect just as it is. There is divinity in separation. There's divinity in death. And once you realize this, once you realize who you are, you will realize I'm inside of you. I am you. It's just like what Rumi says. Only someone who has lost their mind will understand that. I am inside of you and I am you. Because we're the same awareness. Awareness creates a different person, a different concept, because we're all appearing in different positions, in different bodies, taking in different experiences, different realities, and we base these experiences and realities, and we collect all of this and we gather it into who we are, which is why we're all creating a different identity, a different self, a different character. But it is the very same awareness. So, in observing ego and being the witness, the watcher is what has never left. The watcher is what does not birth or die. And once you realize yourself beyond ego, you witness ego. You witness the body. You have become the eternal watcher. Anyone who has died exists in you right now in this very moment. You are the very same awareness. All is one means just that. Different form appearing outside of that self, so you could know that self as something other. Because if you were that self, they wouldn't exist. It would be you. So there's divinity in separation. There's divinity in death. But I view death as a celebration. We celebrate the person's existence, the gift of their personality, their being, their light. Who they were was a gift. And as I said, if they were never separate from you, if they didn't peer outside of you, they would be you. And therefore they would not exist. And that's why love is the ultimate answer. We lose things because love is the ultimate answer. You could not experience that or lose it, appear to lose it, if it was never separate from you. You would never even know what that was. You would never even know who that was, had they not been separate. and I say this a lot, we're meant to lose everything we love here to prepare us for the ultimate goodbye with ourself in our moment of death. But again, we do not die. The concept we have established as this self is what dies. And this is why when you can begin to observe what you are beyond description, beyond self, beyond concepts, beyond titles, you will begin to get more in touch with what you are. But you have to drop the titles, the descriptions, the concepts, the two physical eyes which looks. The answer is the mind, and that's why the all-seeing eye is so powerful. That's why the all-seeing eye is used by all these well-respected lodges and these corporations. What the all-seeing eye represents is the mind unleashed, and the mind unleashed is everything. And it gets no more powerful than that. The mind unleashed is everything. The earth is not physical. It's an illusion, and the self is an illusion. So when you unleash the mind, you have awakened in the dream and realized self beyond the self. You realize that you are projecting an illusory character into an illusory world, and through these two concepts, they coexist together in your mind. And once you unleash your mind, you have attained the sovereignty of the all-seeing eye, the third eye. Reality can become whatever you want it to be. And people who debate this can start looking into quantum physics, because quantum physics is starting to prove no one is existent in the same reality. But I warn you, when you go deep into quantum physics, it starts to scare you a little bit. As Niels Bohr said, if you start to go deep into quantum physics and it doesn't scare the crap out of you, you're not understanding it right. Because it can get a bit dicey. But the reality is, this group of they, who some people think are an elite group, they control the world, they are behind all these negative doings. Some people think they exist, and they think they have a face to it, but really they don't. It's themselves. It's your shadow self you're projecting outside of you. And it has all the power over you because you don't identify with it. You haven't faced it. You haven't realized self as a dual being. Inside, outside. You and me. Self and other are not separate. Other is your mirror. You are my mirror. I will see you as I see myself. I will see an alien as I see myself. I will see an artificial intelligence as I see myself. And that is why becoming self-aware beyond the self is ultimate liberation. There is no form which I would never identify with. There is no thing outside of me that I will not see as myself. I tricked me up until a certain point. I hid from myself in the form. But I was looking for myself beyond the form. And when you look for yourself beyond the form, you must lose identity. You're looking for something beyond form, beyond the senses. What this means is you cannot use the senses to find something beyond the senses. You cannot find your limitlessness within your limits. You must shed the human concept, shed the human ego, become the witness, the watcher, the one that is eternal, and realize that you have not gone anywhere. When you awaken and open the third eye, you say, "Welcome back." You're awakened. You haven't birthed or you haven't died. You haven't gone anywhere. Never born, never died. You don't go anywhere. When you realize yourself beyond identity, you are the same awareness that is in anybody you've ever listened to, anybody etched in history, anybody who's ever been in record, anybody you've ever studied, looked up to, researched. They're you. And that's how it's been said that people have had access to something called Akashic Records. Akashic Records is a memory file where all knowing exists. It's all in the mind. And some people believe in that, some people don't. Akashic Records is just another word for ether. Akash just means ether. But to tap into the ether is to tap into the mind. It's the outside of us is the mind stretched inside out. And that's why I tell people, our answer is not in outer space. You could travel as far as you want into outer space and you would die before you ever reached an end, because you're literally free diving into your mind flipped inside out. You're just traveling into the depths of your own mind. And that's why I say everything is our mirror. Everything is the mirror to self. Once you realize self and other, inside and outside, are one, there is no search. There's nothing to search for. You have found yourself. And a lot of the question that comes next is, what next? And as long as you're trying to force a what next, what meaning, a purpose, you're trying to force life to happen to you. You're effortless. What you are is effortless. And this is what a stream, a forest, an animal can show you. It's effortless. Just look at it. It's perfect. Go spend a day in nature and you see how perfect everything is, and it requires no thought. Nature doesn't seek anything. It shows you how to be. You don't have to find a meaning. You don't have to find a purpose. Your meaning is in your very awareness. The gift of you even being aware to ask what a meaning is the gift, but we miss it by looking for a certain meaning. The meaning is in your very self. What we are is effortless. And that's why I say to people a lot of the times, you can find me in the winds of change. Which is basically saying, like Bruce Lee, be like water. I just go with the flow. The winds of change. Realize everything outside of you is going to change. Everything outside of you is in constant decay. And if you are struggling to hold on to what's outside of you, you have not realized what you are. And that's why I wrote the poem of, if you're trying to remember me, if you're trying to see me, you'll always miss me. Because you're making an attempt to find me, to see me, to touch me, to think of me. I'm not separate from you. That's my ultimate message. That's why I ultimately make these videos, is so that people can see themselves beyond identity. Because once you do that, you will realize I'm in you, he's in you, she's in you, all these people are you. And once you realize this, you have access to anyone who has ever been an identity, ego. Because it is only one singular awareness birthing a consciousness, and it is the consciousness, which is ego, that is dying in the process of the birthing, in that travel. It's only the concept of self that births and dies. So the one who becomes self-aware beyond their self is the one that will acknowledge their selflessness. Because like I said, what the ego most seeks, it most fears. The ego seeks for itself beyond itself, but in doing so, it must destroy itself. And that's why I use the phoenix, the rising phoenix, because the rising phoenix is just like the ego. The ego must destroy itself, but in doing so, rebirths itself. You become so much more. You don't just lose touch with self when you see beyond ego, you become so much more. You shed your limited layers to what you are not, which reveals what you are. And that's not to say that everyone, just because they've seen beyond ego, knows they're God. Not everyone is as self-aware. Not everyone may believe even that they're God, which is fine. But it's all a mirror, according to one's own level of self-awareness. We will only see and hear any message outside of us as we see ourselves. So if I only see myself as a human being, and I'm listening to myself here, Tyler, tell me that I'm not just a human being, if I'm only self-aware as a human being, I'm going to consider this nonsense. This is crap. How could I be anything but a human being? This is all I've ever known. It's all in a level of self-awareness, in accordance to the one self-awareness. And that's why those who are still in a human mind, they still have not realized themselves as the alien. Because they have not realized themselves beyond themselves. Which is, like I said, if we appeared outside of our human form, in, let's say, another form, I'm just going to use the green alien form because that's the most popularized form of an alien. Let's say we were all birthed into a green guy, and we appeared outside the human form. We would view the human form as an alien now, not as self. Not as what we are, because we are this. And that's what we do not realize, is we are the alien we seek. If we were to switch places, it would be the very same thing. What you seek is seeking you. Take that in. Take that in. What you seek is seeking you. Just like Rumi says, all your attempts to reach me are in fact my attempts to reach you. We're interacting with ourselves. It's all a mirror to the self. But understanding is much more powerful than knowledge. When you are truly enlightened, you have more understanding than knowledge. Because the one who has more knowledge will debate, will think they're better than. The one who has more understanding will love and accept everyone's truth as genuine, as authentic. Will love and accept everyone just as they are, because they have a deeper level of understanding. There's no need to judge, to say you're wrong, to call names, or to even be right. Who is it who wants to be right? If I am not my body, and I am not myself, and I am not my character, then who is it who wants to be right? Who is it who needs to be right? Who is it who needs to be validated? The one that comes and goes. The one you are playing as. And it's the same thing with fear, it's the same thing with suffering. Most of the fears we create are, again, a reflection of our level of self-awareness. Many people go through life terrified of death, terrified of the end. And that's why I love what Osho says. The question is not whether there exists life after death, but whether you are alive before death. And this is why I say, with great power comes great responsibility. People who claim to be enlightened should be held accountable and responsible for what they say and do. If you claim to be an enlightened one, then you must show it, demonstrate it. You shouldn't be still getting into the back and forth debating or making it your mission or responsibility to change anything or to correct anything outside yourself. Because once you know what you are, again, reality is an illusion. Self is an illusion. Both are concepts of the mind which you project outside of yourself to exist in. Which means you have all the control, all the power. And some people may say, well, we're here for the human experience, right? Absolutely. Of course. Of course. Everything is a balance, and that's why we should acknowledge our dual being in nature. The duality is the singularity. That picture is on my wall. The duality is the singularity. You are a dual being. It is through the non-physical and the physical that we exist, but we view them as separate. We view as above so below, as within so without, as the universe so the soul, as two separate things. This is this and that is that. This is this and that is that. This is this and that is that. But this is not the case. This and that are one being. Here and there are one place. Heaven or hell, one place. God, devil, one place. Reality, dream, one place. All now. So back to my point, everything is a balance. We are a dual being in nature. So yes, we're here for the human experience, but we have two sides to the dual brain. There's two hemispheres. So to just be human puts you on just one side of your brain. Because again, your brain is that principle, as above so below. Your brain is split, as above so below, as within so without. It's the dual concept. So when you go too much into one side of the hemisphere, most people actually, are more dominant on one side of their brain than the other. Everyone will vary. But when you go into too much of one side of the brain, you become too much of what is human, too much of what is suffering, too much of what is fearing, too much of what is victim here. Because we are too much on one side, and that obviously off balances the dual principle. Because we are not acknowledging our dual being. But once you realize this, once man and God become joined together as one, you realize that God needs man as man needs God. Even if we appeared as what we called alien, this alien would still have a concept of God, but it would be called something completely different. Because what we are is a dual being. And God needs man as man needs God. They need each other. Because if we were all just what we called God, we would all be one, therefore we would all not exist. We would all be one mind. And how could we know each other? How could we know self? If we were all just human, no God. How could it know itself? The two need each other. If everything is always one, nothing is ever separate, you never know a concept of family. You never know concept of anything. And that's why creation is love. It's not meant to be a trick. It's not meant to be a game. It's not meant to be something we even lose anything here. Because once we realize who and what we are, we realize we lose nothing. It is a gift to know anything and anyone at all, even for 1 minute. Even for 1 minute. And that's just it. Someone who hasn't realized who they are, what they are, will clench and fight and hang on to dear life for the physical. But the physical is what forever changes. And if this is what you seek to hold on to, you will suffer. And I'm not saying to mourn, but I'm saying to suffer. To destroy yourself over losing another. It's easier said than done, but when I leave my body, I want my family to celebrate my existence. It's a gift to know me at all, because I'm here. I'm outside of you. If I was not outside of you, you wouldn't be able to know me. You wouldn't even see me. I wouldn't exist. I'd be in you, and I'd be a part of you, and that would be that. You wouldn't know anything about me. It's a gift to know anyone, anything, especially yourself, is the ultimate gift. Individuality. But you must not be consumed with the individual. You are not the individual. You are what's forever watching and traveling through the individual. But remember, when you are too much the individual, you are too much human, you are too much what is suffering. You are too much what is fearing. We all embrace being human and being this body until we realize death is real. This body must die, and wow, now I don't want to be this at all. I need to look for something beyond this body, and this is where we have a concept of God and a higher power, and I must connect with it because I don't want to die. I don't want to go nowhere. I want to become what is eternal. And this is how you do it. Becoming aware of self beyond your concept of self, beyond your descriptions of what you think you are. Realize everything which makes you you is basically a title, a description, a concept. The thinking mind. Beyond your senses. Beyond your senses, in this very moment, is anything and everything you seek. Beyond this moment. We forever seek until we realize and lose concept of the individual. Just like Sri Nisargadatta says, witness is not a person. Witness is no person at all. That which tells you that you're human is not human at all. What told you you were human? The mind, the assumed concept, the assumed role, the assumed identity. And when you go out into society and tell people, I'm not human, you are crazy to them. You are beyond society's mold, the culture that exists. It's all an illusion. That's why I love Terence McKenna, because he acknowledges how culture and everything is just a condition. It's a mold. It doesn't exist beyond our illusion of what we're supposed to be. And I'm going to wrap up the video with this. The best part about becoming the watcher and watching identity is when you let go of yourself as identity, identity doesn't go anywhere. You don't lose yourself. You lose your limited self. You become the watcher. And so many people ask me how I come up with my statuses. This is how I do it. I'm giving everyone the answer here. It's nothing incredible. It's nothing you can't do. It's nothing beyond anyone's capability. It's as simple as this. You speak of your identity in a third person. You are what is watching not only the outside world, but your inside body. I have beyond lost my human mind, and in doing so, I have lost all concepts of limits. I have broken boundary. I'm pushing myself to explore my limitlessness, not my limits. I don't know limits. I know my limitlessness, which is no self at all. The only way a self exists is in the form, and in the form I am ego. And if I want to find myself beyond ego, I must destroy ego. What I most seek is what I most fear. You can run, but you can't hide from yourself. That's why my book is called The Prolonging Inevitability of One. You are the one, and you prolong yourself. You create these illusory stages of awakening for yourself. You investigate government conspiracies because you have given your power away to someone or something beyond yourself. And all you're doing is searching for your power back, who you are. And that's why I said, the people who are constantly in government conspiracies saying they, who are they? Because the reality is, again, these words we use are just descriptions of the mind that we project into our realities, and therefore they become real. They become materialized. But they don't exist until you decide they do, until you believe they do. Then you very much well exist in their reality, because you are your own independent universe, and you are projecting yourself in their reality. So yes, they are very much real. They become as real as we make them. All they are there for is to have someone to place blame on. Just like when we don't like our lives, we can blame God or someone in the sky. Well, it's the same thing. If I'm frustrated and don't have my own power and my own liberation, isn't it comforting to have someone such as they to just blame? They are the problem. They are the reason for the world being in such decay. They are the reason for this and this and this. But once you stop projecting your demons and your shadows outside of yourself and identify with them, your reality significantly changes. Demons are not real. We project them outside of us and materialize them, and so they become real. And I've said this in past videos. Demons that have been drawn into a form are demons that someone has not faced in their own mind. So what they've done is they've drawn it and materialized it into reality, and now it is an object of fear for someone else who looks at it, because they did not face their own demon. They projected it outside of themselves, and now here it is, waiting to be faced as you. There's no one to blame. And again, understanding is greater than knowledge. Once you have an understanding greater, you will realize you don't need to place blame on anyone. It's about responsibility, which is the ultimate and hardest thing one can do. If I am all and all is one, I am responsible for everything. Because again, I am not just this body. I am not just one identity. I am the one awareness behind everything, everyone. And that's the hardest thing to do, responsibility. But this is how you own your demons and heal them, rather than projecting them outside of yourself and running from them, feeling like they're following you. But I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you to everyone who watched this. I hope it helped you in any way possible. If anyone has any concerns or questions or need any help or assistance, feel free to message me. My inbox is always open. I will have this on my YouTube channel within the hour. Thank you, everyone.